The new September Crafty Crew kit from Crafty Stamp Co. is adorable, and so I thought it would be perfect for a mini journal or a mini album, I guess I should say. And I thought this would be great for back to school photos, or even if you took a little trip somewhere, I think it would be cute for the photos from that. And you've got more room in it than you'll realize. When we get through, I can show you all of the space that you'll have in it. Let's go ahead and get started on the mini album. So for the mini album base, you're going to need 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. For the first piece of cardstock, we're going to leave it at 8.5 by 11, and we're going to put it in our scoreboard with the 11-inch side to the top of your scoreboard. And then you want to score at 5 1/4, and then again at 5 3/4. Then we're going to turn our paper with the 8.5-inch side to the top of our scoreboard, and we're going to score at 4 and then again at 8. So for the second piece, we want to cut that piece down to 8.5 by 10 3/4. And so I thought I was filming when I was working on this piece, but I wasn't. So I'm going to go ahead and show you though. You put the 10 3/4 inch side to the top of your scoreboard, and you score at 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. Then you're going to turn it, and you're going to have your 8.5-inch side to the top of your scoreboard, and you're going to score at 4 inches and 8 inches. And so now we have the papers ready for our base. So now we need to clip the corners. So we just want to clip each end, and then we want to come back to the center here, and we want to clip in towards the center and then cut the little piece off there in the center. And that's going to give us like a, not really a V, but you know, a little notch out of our paper. So now we're going to come back to the other sheet that we scored, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clip each corner, and then we're going to come back to the center, and we're going to clip in towards the center again, and then we're going to cut out that little notch there. And you're trying to cut on that score line or above the score line so that you don't leave any paper, so that when you fold it up, nothing's showing. So this is what you should have. You should have 2 sheets, one with a wide notch cut out and then one with a smaller, because we scored these, the spine of this, one of them is wider than the other. One's a 1/2 inch and one is 1/4 inch. So now we just want to fold everything up on the score line. So I'm just folding the score lines right now, getting my crease into all of my papers. So once we have everything folded on the score lines, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to fold my little tabs in, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to these tabs. Now this is a new glue bottle, and a lot of glue is coming out, so you don't have to put this much glue, and you could use double-sided tape as well. So then we're just going to fold this over, fold our paper over, and we're kind of folding it in half, hot dog style is what you would say, so it's a long ways. So then we're just going to press everything down. I'm just going to use my pressing tool to make sure that the glue is set, and then we have our first couple of pages ready. So now let's go to the other sheet. I want to fold up on all the score lines again, just getting all my creases in there so it's easier to fold once I put the book together. So I'm just folding up. So then we're going to come back and do the same thing. We're going to add a little bit of glue to each one of these flaps, and then we'll fold it over hot dog style. I call it hot dog style because it's long ways, and that way it makes a little sense. So we're just going to fold that over, and then we're just going to press it down again, making sure that our tabs stick to the paper really well. Just clean up any glue if you have any glue that oozes out. And here is our other couple of pages. So now we're going to take and just use a little bit of twine to put this book together. So what I want to do is I want to punch a couple of holes in my spine. So that 1/2 inch there where we scored, that is the spine of our book. So what I'm going to do is, I know it's a 1/2 inch, so I just want to mark where the center is, which would be 1/4 inch. And then I'm just going to put my ruler. Now you don't have to have this style ruler, any ruler will work. And so then I'm just lining my ruler up, and I want to mark 1 inch from the bottom and 1 inch from the top. And so I just put a little pencil mark there. And so I'm going to do the same thing. Now this one is 1/4 inch, so we're going to have to get in between that 1/4 inch at 1/8 inch and mark our little line, and then hold your ruler against it and just kind of eyeball, make sure you're in the center there, and then we're going to mark 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom. That way our holes will line up when we put our pages together. So you can see I have all marked. So I'm going to use this little Fisker's hole punch. It's a hole punch and then a rivet setter, but I couldn't use my larger punches because you need a really small hole for this. So if you don't have this tool, I know there are hole punches that are this small if you have that, but if you don't have any tool to do this, then just bring out your pokey tool or an awl and just put holes in your spine using that. So you can figure out a way to just poke through there and make your own holes even without these tools. But I absolutely love my Fisker's rivet setters, or is it eyelet setters, excuse me, eyelet setters and the hole punch in it. But use whatever you have to make the holes. Just make sure that they're even on both, that they're at the same spot on both spines. So now I'm just going to come through. Now I'm using cardstock here. This is about 80-pound cardstock. So I'm trying to get the fold really good in my spine because with all of this paper, it's very thick. So you just want to use your pressing tool or your bone folder and just give that a good press on each of the score lines for your spine. This is a really easy and fun album to put together. It does come together really quickly, but like I said in the beginning, I think this would be adorable for back to school, but also if it would be really neat for if you took a small trip, like a little weekend trip. So it would be really neat to use as a little travel mini album as well for a small trip. So here is our book. So now we're going to bring in some twine, and this is pink, so I thought it would match my paper really well, and it would match the decorative paper that I'm going to put on. Now I'm going to make it about 4 times the size of the length of my spine, and I'm only doing that so I'll have extra pieces or extra length on it, and then I'll just trim it down because I wanted to be sure I had a lot of extra to tie my bow, and also if I wanted to add any charms or anything, then I could. So what I'm doing now is I'm just adding a little bit of tape to the end of my twine. Now if you had a needle big enough, you could do that as well, but I wasn't sure that where I'd even have a needle that would fit this. So I just added a little bit of tape, and then I'm going to take and put it through that hole, but it is a tiny hole, so it's really hard. So I'm going to use my pokey tool to push that tape through. So this is just washi tape that I've wrapped around it, and so then I'm just going to take my pokey tool and press it in. Now it does take a little bit of convincing it that it wants to go through, and so I'm just going to pull it through. I'll just push it a little bit more until I can get it where I can grab a hold of it, and then I'll just pull it through. And so then I'm going to do the same thing for the next hole. And sometimes you can just push the tape through and it will work. But today I am struggling with getting it in, so I am just using this pokey tool and just pressing the washi tape through and then grabbing a hold of it once it gets through the other side. It does take me a minute to do this, so it would have been a lot better if I did have some sort of needle. But you can see it doesn't take that much work. So I want one end to be sticking out of the top, and then I'm going to come back to the other end, and I'm going to add another little piece of washi tape to that end, and then I'm going to poke it through just like I did the first string. So this one, a lot of my journals that I tie together, a lot of times I will tie on the inside. But for this one, I wanted to tie it on the outside because I think it just adds a little bit more decoration to the mini album. So I'm just doing it again. I'm just using my pokey tool to get that washi tape poked in. And like I said, it is a little bit of a struggle. My fingers didn't want to work today anyway doing this, so if I could just grab a hold of it. And I am showing you in real time so you can kind of get an idea that if you're struggling, just keep working with it, keep pushing it, because it will eventually go through. It's just, and you'll probably have better luck than me if your hands will work for you. Sometimes my hands are a bit shaky, so it's a little harder to do things like that. So once I twisted the tape a little bit more, you can see I didn't even need the pokey tool. I was able to just push it through. So if you can get your tape twisted right, and in hindsight, maybe it would have been better to use some, I can't think of the name of the tape. It's like a cream color tape. but it might have been better to use a sturdier tape, I guess is what I'm going to say. Something that was a little bit more sturdier, so that even maybe painter's tape would have been better to use. The washi tape may have been give too much, so it may have not made it go through the hole as easy. So you may want to try stiffer tape if you're making this. So then I'm just going to tie a little bow, and you can see I've got a long string, but I'm not sure how long I want to leave the string or if I want to add anything to it. So I'm just going to leave that and work on the rest of the journal. Now I waited until I had my journal together to punch these little semicircles out of the pockets, because I want you to be able to see the paper that's in the pockets. This is the only part that I really struggled with, because I wanted to put it together so that all of my little semicircles or little thumb holes, I'm not sure what you call them, I wanted to be sure that they all lined up when the book was put together. So that's why I'm doing it afterwards, but it is a bit of a struggle for the first page and the last page. So here's the last page of the book. I don't want to put a thumb hole in the back. The covers, I don't want to have the thumb hole in. So because of that, then I got to figure out how I'm going to cut this notch out. So for this one, I'm just going to draw in. I'm going to trace that little semicircle, and then I'll just bring my punch in and try to line it up the best I can. So I'm having to go inside of this pocket, which it eventually works. It just takes me a moment to get it inside there. Thankfully, those pockets will open up quite a bit, so I can slide this down in, but this punch is really large. So this is the only thing that really was a struggle, and I'm still trying to think in hindsight what I could have done. I could have hole punched them while they were still not sewn into the book, but I'm not sure that would have helped much either. But it doesn't take that much work. I'm just telling you what is hard, and I mean, this wasn't a really hard thing to do. Finally, for this one, I decided just to hold them together and then just stick the punch down in the pocket and then just punch it. So I think this is really my first time making this one. This was just an idea that I had for this because I thought it would be perfect, like I said, for back to school or a small travel mini album, not something really large. And so I thought with this new kit, it would be fun to decorate it up. I thought the papers would look really pretty for background paper for your mini album. So I'm just making this, showing you as I'm making it. It was just an idea that I had that I wanted to share with you as I created it. So sometimes when you're creating things like this, you know, once you go back and you look at it, you'll have better ideas of how to do things. But now for this one, I don't have a better idea yet. So if you have a better idea of how to punch those little thumb holes out, let me know in the comments. I can always use tips and help with things that I'm doing. So I've decided now I want to have a flap for my mini album to close my mini album up. So I'm just bringing in another piece of cardstock that is 4 inches wide, and I'm just trying to decide now how long I want my flap, because I have an idea of how I wanted to decorate the cover. So I don't want my flap, when it closes up, to cover up my decoration too much. I know it's going to cover up my decoration some, but if I'm going to have a closure for it, then I'm going to have to give a little and let it cover it up. Now I was thinking, after making it, if you wanted the flap to close towards the back, then you could do that. I thought it would be a little awkward to try to open it from the back side, but that would be one way that you didn't have to cover up your decorations on the front. So now for this piece, I cut it to 3.5 by 4, and I'm putting the 3.5 inch side to the top of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score at 1 inch, and then I'm going to score again at 1.5 inches. So then the larger side, past the score lines, I'm just trimming down at an angle, and that's so that we can fit it down in that pocket to make our flap. So I'm just trimming it down, and that'll make sense in a moment when I show you what I'm going to do. So then I'm just going to fold it up so I can get my score lines all folded and creased in. And I also want to round those corners. So on the small 1 inch side, that's the only corners I want to round. I just want to add a little bit of a curve to those corners, and this is just a little corner rounder punch, and so I'm just adding that. And then what I'm going to do is I want to slide this in the last page. So I'm just going to stick that down in there, and I'm just dry fitting it first to make sure that I like how it looks. So you can see here I'm trying to decide how far down in there I want it. So if I slide it all the way down to the score line, you can see that that's just not enough. It doesn't fold correctly. So I'm thinking about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just eyeballing it, but about 1/8 of an inch from the score line to the top of the pocket seemed to be the best for this flap. Now, if you're making this, you can make your flap longer if you wanted it to fold over. I'm even thinking that you could make the flap longer and make it part of the decoration as well. But there's so many ways that you can change things up. So, you may see this and have lots of better ideas on how to change it up and add more things to it. And so hopefully this video is just inspiration for you to try something new. This was something new for me. I've created things like this similar before, but it's been a long time since I created any mini albums or journals. So I really wanted to create something with this kit that was more than just cards. And so I really thought it would be perfect for a little mini album. So you can see here, it's about 1/8 of an inch from the top of the pocket to the score line, and I slid it in. And then I've just glued it in. I put glue on the back side of the flap so that when I put it in the pocket, it's onto the back side of the pocket, if that makes sense. So here's the decorations that I prepared ahead of time. So I'm using the Let's Get Groovy 6x6 paper pack. And then I've gone ahead and stamped out the little van from the, oh my goodness, Road Trippin' stamp set. All of this comes in the kit. I will link below to the kit. The last day to pre-order the kit is August 15th, and after August 15th, it's no longer available. So the way Crafty Stamp Co. does their kits is you can do a pre-order from August 1st to August 15th, and then after the 15th, the kits are no longer available. And so these stamp sets, paper, stencil, everything that's in this kit will possibly never be available in the shop, but if it is available in the shop, then it will be 6 months to a year before they offer these items in their shop. Okay, so for my cover, I'm cutting my paper down to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So I'm just measuring here to see. So what I do is I really sometimes don't plan way ahead. I just, keep looking and measuring back and forth. I don't even use a ruler. I just kind of eyeball how much frame I wanted of the pink paper around this pattern paper. So I found that 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 worked perfect. So then I'm just going to lay out all of my pieces. And so I've gone ahead and die cut this banner, and I've cut the pieces for it. I've also gone ahead and, of course, colored in stamped the van, colored it in, and just cut it out by hand. I just fussy cut it. And then this little dog, I did the same thing. I just colored it in with alcohol markers and fussy cut him out and add him to the van. I think he's really cute. I know I did this in my last video. I added the same dog to the van, but that is my favorite dog in the stamp set, so I decided to add him again. So I do like the banner on here. So what I'm going to do though is I am going to add some little, so the banner I cut out in purple, but you're only going to see the string for the purple because I've also cut out pink and yellow, and I'm adding that to my banner. Now I will link below to the products that I'm using. So this banner, I can't remember who it's from, but I will put that in the description as well. And so for the banner pieces, you can see I've already inked them too. I inked the yellow with yellow and the pink with pink just to add a little bit more dimension to the little banner pieces. And so now I'm just attaching it to my cardstock. And then I'm going to add my van. And then I realized, my banner is hidden a lot behind the van, but I think that's okay. It's just adding a little bit of something to the front cover. So I'm going to pop the van up onto my pattern paper. And I'm just laying it on the front of my book to make sure I get everything laid out the way I like it, and then I will attach it to the cover. I don't want to, if I mess up, I don't want to mess up the whole book. So I try to just decorate the piece and then add that whole piece to the cover so that there's no mistakes made. Now, originally I'm thinking here that the flap could just tuck behind the van, but stick around to the end because I make some changes to that because I found that that wasn't working out. Because keep in mind, that flap was a last minute thought when I was putting this together. And so I hadn't really thought that flap through. And so closer to the end, I'll show you how I fixed that. I think this makes an adorable cover, and I think it would be perfect for back to school or for a travel or anything really. It would make a cute little album for all kinds of things. So you can see here, I'm still thinking you could tuck it there and hold it. But if I had planned ahead, I would have cut that van out of 2 or 3 pieces of cardstock and glued them together so that it would be thicker when I put the flap behind it so it wouldn't move it. So you'll see it makes it bend just a little bit. So if you want to use like the van for your flap, be sure to do 2 or 3 layers of cardstock for that. So now I'm cutting all of my pages. So I'm cutting those at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And I've kind of eyeballed on this paper trimmer, even though it's not marked. I figured out about where 5 1/8 is. And so you could pull out a different trimmer that has the markings, but for me, I thought this was enough. So I'm just cutting out a bunch of sheets for this, and then we will glue them all on. So I did cut this piece down. So I cut it down to 3/4 by 3 7/8. And then I rounded the corners, and then I'm adding it to my flap. And you can see here, when I added that back flap, I got some glue in the back, but I'm just cleaning that off with a glue eraser. And so now you can see where I'm tucking it in there. So I'm just going to go through and glue my pages on. But before I do, I want to show you how to do your pages, because you've got to get those hole punches in your page now as well. So what I found to be one of the easiest ways was to just slide the paper down in the pocket and then pull out my circle punch and punch it. But now this is not going to get it exactly the size that you need every time. So once you punch it, what you want to do is line it up on your paper and look and see if you have enough pink around the edges and around that little thumb hole. And if you feel like the thumb hole needs a little bit more, just come back and clip it a little bit. That's what I did. I just added a little bit more to it, and but you can see there, I think that one looks fine. Some of them I didn't feel like looked as good. I didn't have as much pink space around it. So what I did was I did go back and just clip it just a little bit, but clip just a little itty bitty bit off at a time so that you don't mess up your paper and have too big of a hole. So taking less off is better than more, because you can't put paper back, but you can always cut more off, if that makes sense. So that is what I did. And so also when you'll see me several times, I'll take and look back at the cover. Just pay attention to the direction that you're putting your papers, because you want them to be right. You want them to be the top up like it's supposed to be, but also you've got to put the thumb hole in the right spot, because if you don't put that little notch in the right spot, then when it fits on your page, it may be upside down. So just pay attention to direction that you want your thumb hole, but also the direction of your paper and the direction of your book, because you don't want to put your book together upside down. So you can see here that one wasn't fitting exactly like I liked it, so I'm just going to clip just a little bitty bit off, and then if I need to, I can always come back and clip more. So I'm just going to go through and do all of my pages that way. So then I decided I wanted to add a little strip here to the flap where we had scored the 1/2 inch mark. So I just cut a piece down that was 3 7/8 by 3/8. So that way it would fit on the little spine there and still have a little border around it. Like I said a few minutes ago, I wasn't sure that I liked how the flap was, because I felt like it was making the van bend upward. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming in with some Velcro dots so that I can Velcro the flap down. And so the best way to add these dots is to add it. I added it to the flap, and then I'm going to fold the flap over. So I've added both the dots together. You see they're very sticky. And then I'm just going to fold it over and attach it where I want those dots to be. Now I'm still thinking it's going up under the van, that it won't make it pucker up because the Velcro will be holding it down. But in the end, I decided to just cover the end of the van with the flap. Now you could add, before you added any of your papers, you could use the little magnets, but I avoid using those now. I used to use them all the time, but I avoid using them because I have so many pets and I'm so afraid that one of them will swallow the magnets, like if I get the magnets out and use them. So I just use the Velcro. I think it's a little bit safer, especially if you have pets around or if you have children around. So here is the completed mini album. I really love how it turned out. I love the size of it. I think it's really cute. And so here is our Velcro dots, and then you open it up and we have the pages. And so each page is a pocket. So I've gone ahead and cut out some purple cardstock. I haven't decided if I want to put any of the decorative paper on it or not, because I think that this would make a good frame to add a photo to as well. So I haven't decided. I also thought about adding some paper to it so it'd be a journaling spot. So I haven't decided yet how I want to do that. But the paper, I cut it down the same as the pages. So it's 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. So it fits perfectly in this pocket. And so I've just done purple in all of mine. You could do pink that matches your matches the paper there, but I thought the purple added a little something more to it because there's so much purple in the pages as well. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages to add photos, and then you can add photos to each one of these pockets. So that gives you another 10 photos, or your front and back you could even add even more. So I thought that that really turned out cute. I love how this paper looks in this mini album. And if you were adding photos, you could add decorations to the pages, but I think it's best to wait till after the photos so that you know what room you have, so that you can not mess up your page where you wouldn't have room for your photos. And I don't know if I ever showed you the back, but I went ahead and added some paper to the back. Now this one, I think I did cut a little larger. I cut it at 5, let's see. The back cover I cut more closer to 5 3/8 by 3 7/8 because I was trying to cover the flap, because the flap adds another 1/8 of an inch to it. So that's why I cut it larger. But I do love how this turned out. I love the twine there on the side. And even though you're sewing it, you don't need to know how to sew. As you watch me do it, it's not really sewing. It's just running string through a hole. So hopefully you have enjoyed seeing me put this together, and hopefully you'll give it a try. And be sure to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.